Hello Bloomington, I'm Mayor Tim Busse, and this is the Council Minute for the week of June 28th. This week, the City Council acted on a joint recommendation made by our Bloomington Human Rights Commission and the Bloomington Planning Commission to adopt a resolution joining the Just Deeds Coalition. The Just Deeds Coalition is a group of cities and interested parties who are working to remove discriminatory covenants from property titles. So let me take a minute to explain what this is all about. Over the past couple of years, we've all learned a great deal about institutional and systemic racism in our country and in Minnesota that predates all of us. One glaring example of systemic racism is the history of restrictive covenants on property deeds that explicitly prohibit ownership according to race or religion. In other words, when people would buy land or buy a home, the deed for that property would contain specific language that said that the property could never be sold or occupied by a specific group. For example, the language often included prohibitions against Negroes, Asians, or Jewish people. In 1948, the United States Supreme Court ruled that these restrictive covenants were unenforceable, and in 1953, the state of Minnesota prohibited racial restrictions in real estate documents. And in 1968, the Federal Fair Housing Act made racially restricted covenants illegal. But all of those actions didn't do one really important thing. They didn't get rid of the discriminatory language in the documents. That's where the Just Deeds Coalition comes in. The Just Deeds Coalition is a group of community stakeholders committed to acknowledging and addressing systemic racism in housing in Minnesota. Coalition members provide free legal and title services to help property owners find discriminatory covenants and then helps them remove that language from their property titles. So, if you're wondering if these covenants exist here in Bloomington, sadly, they do. Using data gathered by the Mapping Prejudice Project of the University of Minnesota, the city has learned that there are 374 racially restricted covenants within the city of Bloomington. Through changes in parcel boundaries, 500 properties now intersect with those 374 covenants. Of those 500 properties, 18 are now owned by the city of Bloomington, and one is owned by the Bloomington Housing and Redevelopment Authority. The resolution adopted by the City Council on Monday does four things. First, it disavows and condemns the past use of discriminatory covenants and says that discriminatory covenants should never be allowed in the future. It directs the city attorney to identify any property owned by the city of Bloomington with discriminatory covenants and to do the work necessary to remove that language from those property titles. Third, it directs the Planning Commission, the Human Rights Commission, and city staff to reach out to landowners and community members with restricted covenants on their properties and get them the information they need to remove those covenants if they would like to do so. And finally, it directs staff to participate in the work of the Just Deeds Coalition. That work includes educating the community about just deeds and other historically discriminatory practices, identifying contemporary discriminatory systems, policies, codes, and practices, and taking additional actions to dismantle racist systems, practices, and policies in the city of Bloomington to create equity for all. The City Council's commitment to inclusion and equity mostly focuses on issues of today and tomorrow, but adopting this resolution is an important step in recognizing the role of history in creating systems that perpetuate racism and working towards transformational systems changes. Thank you to the members of our Human Rights Commission and our Planning Commission members who unanimously recommended the City Council take this action. Thanks also to the community members and staff who are working to make it happen. Over the past year, the City Council has made major strides in our goal to develop housing that is affordable in this community. We've done much of that by working with developers and builders to increase the inventory of rental housing in Bloomington, making sure that new apartment projects include a certain number of units that are accessible to people at most income levels. When we talked about our strategic priorities earlier this year, the City Council keyed in on another important housing issue: homeownership. Homeownership and the important role that it does play in creating generational wealth and family stability. We asked city staff to develop strategies to improve opportunities for homeownership in Bloomington, and this week, staff provided an update on that work. The Bloomington Housing and Redevelopment Authority has partnered with the Minnesota Homeownership Center, a nonprofit that promotes and supports homeownership in Minnesota, with a particular emphasis on serving those facing the greatest barriers to homeownership including lower-income households and communities of color. Now, there are two really important opportunities for us to be working on in partnership with the Minnesota Homeownership Center. The first is preventing another foreclosure crisis. During the pandemic, state and federal governments put in place mortgage forbearance programs, meaning that homeowners experiencing economic loss could not be foreclosed. Those forbearance programs are expiring next month here in Minnesota. In Hennepin County alone, there are 11,000 homeowners who are more than 30 days behind on their mortgage. More than a third of those are not currently in a forbearance program. This is where the Minnesota Homeownership Center can really assist us. They have a strong track record of helping people keep their homes. They do this through default prevention counseling and by working with Minnesota Housing to get federal funds for housing assistance to the people who really need it. The second opportunity is increasing home ownership opportunities for BIPOC communities, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, folks who have historically had less access and opportunity to own their own homes. Minnesota has the worst racial gap in the country for home ownership. The difference in the rate of home ownership for whites and BIPOC communities is worse in Minnesota than in any other state in the country. By partnering with the Minnesota Homeownership Center, Bloomington will be looking at a number of program options to help close that gap in our city. Options include down payment assistance programs, land trusts that allow people to purchase the home and lease the land, which lowers the purchase price, and alternatives to credit that provide culturally specific opportunities to buy a home that reach non-traditional or unbanked buyers. Why is this important to the City Council and to all of Bloomington? Well, housing stability is an absolutely essential component of a healthy and vibrant community. It keeps kids in schools, it contributes to steady employment, it provides for economic growth. It is in the city's best interest to work with partners to make sure that all members of our community have access to and opportunities for home ownership. Finally this week, the City Council discussed options for our scheduled increase to franchise fees. The City of Bloomington began collecting a franchise fee on gas and electric utility bills in 2016 to provide a stable and predictable funding stream for many parts of our very successful pavement management program. Utility account holders for XL and Centerpoint currently pay a franchise fee of $3.75 per quarter. These franchise fees fund the yearly projects for overlay and seal coating of the streets, the construction and maintenance of trails in our parks, and the construction of trails in our rights-of-way along roads and streets. Some quick facts here. The city maintains 341 miles of streets. There are 210 miles of concrete sidewalks in Bloomington, and we have 43 miles of asphalt trails. And we track the condition of every mile to ensure the safety of drivers, pedestrians, and bicyclists. Now, we are able to forecast the estimated number of miles of road and trail improvements a good number of years into the future. And it's more than $5 million a year for these overlay, seal coat, and trail projects. And we've built the pavement management program to keep up with those needs with a stable funding source. But when we adopted the franchise fee in 2015, the financial model forecasted an increase in 2020. Now, we didn't do that scheduled increase last year because of the pandemic, so it's been 5 years without an increase in these fees. On Monday, staff presented several options to the council based on different investment options to improve our road and trail infrastructure around town. The council directed staff to prepare an increase of 85 cents in the franchise fee. And we also asked to have them study a couple of additional options that may allow us to add trail miles to the program and fix bad trails sooner than the current schedule would allow. Now, staff will be hosting an open house on July 14th at Public Works to get resident input on the proposed pavement management investments and franchise fee increases. There is also an engagement and feedback forum on the Let's Talk page of the city's website, and the City Council will hold a public hearing on July 26th before taking any action. If the council does adopt an increase, the new rates would go into effect in January of 2022. Well, that is a wrap on this week's Council Minute. I hope to see everyone at Summerfest on Saturday. It's going to be a great time. I hope everyone has a safe and festive Independence Day weekend, and I'll see you next week. Until then, stay safe, Bloomington.